welcome back to the Shopcast. Today I got two of my favorite people in the world with me. Sevilla and Natalia Corazza, and they're part of my mural team, NETA. And they came in to hang out with me even in the morning today. And they just told me they're both not morning people, but...
We love you this much.
Yeah.
Thanks. How's it going?
It's going. Still waking up. But
Still waking up.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of weird to, like, wake up and then, now I'm in this box.
Yeah. A box with a bunch of triangles looking at you.
Yeah.
It's cozy.
I like it.
I like the place.
Especially when you get into deep conversation, it's like there's not a whole lot of distraction because, all this is behind us. The only thing that can distract you is this thing right here.
Yeah.
But that's a good distraction.
Yeah.
Yeah. It kind of feels like a movie theater, though. Like, I'm probably going to, walk out and it's going to be, super hot.
Super bright. Yeah, well,
it's
foggy out right now, so when the sun comes out, it will be bright.
Yeah.
But, all right, let's dive into it. I want to just talk a little bit about your guys' histories as artists, because you guys come from different backgrounds. And let's start with you, Natalia. You actually came from art school, which none of us have. So
yeah.
You're like
actually, Sevilla.
Yeah, that's
school.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
So both of you. But yeah, talk about your art training and going through school, and
yes.
how was that for you?
So, first of all, it's important for me to say that I'm born and raised in Monterey, and I went to a charter school that had a really good art program, so it's just growing up, my art skills were really fostered. I drew every day for several hours, and by the time I was 14, I joined the Youth Arts Collective in downtown Monterey. So that's founded by Marcia Perry and Meg Biddle, and that's a after-school art studio for high school and college students. So anyone 14 to 22 qualifies. And so one of the requirements is that you go 8 hours a week minimum. So I was doing that all of high school, and that's where I really started painting. And then by my senior year in high school, I got into AP art. And it was that's when the switch was made where, I was going from painting maybe 8 to 12 hours a week to also having everyday class. And so obviously it's the more you do it, the better you get. And I just got really good all of a sudden. And I didn't initially go to art school. I went to the University of Oregon undecided. Major because I went to a college prep school, so there was a lot of pressure to go to a 4-year school right away. And so I was panic, pick a school that feels cool, and Oregon had a cool campus, and they also had a landscape architecture program, which was something I thought I could be really interested in, just because it was a mix of nature and art. And I actually took a class there, and it was really cool. But at the same time, because I was an undecided major, I didn't have access to any of the art facilities. And basically, I had to declare the art major in order to even use the facilities. And even then, I had to be enrolled in a studio class.
Right.
So I was limited to my little dorm desk to make art. And honestly, I got really depressed, and I was you know what, if I'm gonna declare an art major, why am I gonna do it in Oregon, in a completely other state than from my family? I still don't have as much resources as I could. So I was I'm just gonna go back to California. So I did. I dropped out after my first quarter at Oregon, and came back to Monterey, joined YAC again, started going to MPC, did my Gen Ed, got an AA, and then I transferred to CCA, the California College of the Arts. And there I studied painting and drawing. So, yeah, and the best thing about art school, because honestly, my understanding is that most art schools in this country are kind of messy. And even I think it just comes from the fact that the art world is kind of messed up. So I think most of what I learned is just like how much connections matter, and also just learning the grind. Like whatever you put in is what you're gonna get out of it too. And I also really liked like learning theory and understanding critique a lot. I got really into that type of stuff, and art history, and how that plays into understanding art is really interesting to me. So yeah, and I did a lot of exploring of like different styles. In the art world and in art school, there is a little bit of prejudice sometimes and like preferences for certain art styles. So it's like hard to deal with that, and you still deal with that, but it's always going to be different depending on your environment. But for example, like my school was like really into like post-ab-X, like abstract expressionism, which was like also kind of problematic because it's so dominated by like white men. And so yeah, there and also being like in the Bay, everything is like very political. And even when your art isn't trying to be political, they will read into it that way. So it's like understanding like that gap between intention and what is interpreted, and learning to be okay with that, and learning to prepare for that and think about that while you're in the process of art making. Yeah. And then so I did school, and I graduated in fall 2019, and I was just working. I was trying to find more art-related work, but, that takes time. And then I was working in the music and event promotion business, so I was promoting events like Cali Roots and stuff like that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And then COVID hit, so everything got canceled, and I got laid off, and I came back to Monterey. I was supposed to be doing a master's in museum and exhibition studies at SFAI, but like 2 weeks after they accepted me, they were like, no new students are enrolling. Like only students that are already enrolled can like take classes during the pandemic. So they postponed my enrollment a year or half a year. And then by the time that happened, I learned like all this stuff about the school. Like they're really in debt right now, they're struggling. So I was like, I don't want to do a master's, first of all, with the school that is like struggling right now, and also like online learning is so hard. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna focus on what I can do for myself. And that's why I was like trying to find different art opportunities here in Monterey. And I was like I was like desperate. I was like, I gotta find my people. And so finally, like, my sister told me about G and how he was doing a mural at the Dali. So I hit him up, and he was like, yeah, come on over. And that's when I met you guys, and like we just clicked. Like the energy was all there. So yeah.
You painted your birds on our ceiling.
Yeah. I was like, what do you want? I give it to you.
Well, that was pretty cool that you just kind of, because you didn't start the mural with us, but you came in towards, I'd say, the middle progress, and you just jumped right in. Like, you literally, the same day you arrived, jumped up on the ladder, and I think you got your birds done that day, huh?
Yeah.
With the quickness, she's like, I got you, what you need. Boom.
You know how I knew you guys were the right type of people? Y'all were playing cumbia, and I was like, no one ever plays cumbia in Monterey like that loud. I was like, no, these are my people. I was like, this is like, I was vibing, honestly. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. See, you're up. What's your history?
My history with art. It wasn't a thing until, like, you know, as a kid you draw and stuff, but not like every day for hours. It really wasn't until I moved to the States that it was my junior year of high school. And somehow I landed in art class. And from there, my art teacher was the one that was like, oh, maybe you should look into art, you know? But that's not a thing in my family. So I went to HSU, which Humboldt, yay.
Humboldt.
Yeah. And actually my major was psychology because people are crazy and you just want to get in there, you know? The problem was that my English wasn't very good. Like, I could get by, but when you're in high school, you get in and you explain to your teacher, hey, I'm new to the country. I understand your language a little bit. Cut me some slack. When you're in college, nobody cares. Especially, like, on the big, like, they don't have big classes up there, but the psychology, like, the science classes were massive because that's, like, their focus. And I had gone there on a full scholarship, but being on the psychology major, it meant a lot of hard classes with a lot of hard words, and my GPA was dropping, and I was gonna lose my ride, and so I was like, you know what? I don't have to talk too much if I'm doing art.
So that was the reason.
So yeah, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna, you know, like, I just remember my high school teacher like telling me that I should go for it. And I was like, you know, I'm just going to go for it. I didn't tell my family, none of that. And the other thing was that the school, HSU, offers like 4 different things in the art world, like art education, art studio, art history, like all those majors, and a certificate in museum and gallery practices that allows you to work in any museum or gallery in the United States. And I was like, well, if I'm going to do art, I'm going to try to do as many as I can. So the only one I didn't get was art history, because art history, ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Yeah. So I graduated with I did art education was my main focus, along with art studio, and
gallery.
The gallery and the museum, yeah, also.
So you got 3 degrees in art?
Yeah.
Wow. Right.
You know how we do. No, I mean, it was literally because it was family pressure. My family really didn't know I was an art person until I graduated. And they were not happy about it. But, you know, it's all good. It's my life. I do what I want.
Yeah.
So, being in art education, you have to take classes for every single medium. Like, you have to take an intro class to every medium, because if you're teaching, you need to know what you're going to teach, and you need to know how to teach it. And sometimes they just throw you into places and they're like, teach this, and you're like, but I've never done this. So I had to take an intro class to like photography, ceramics, sculpture, painting, drawing, life drawing, printmaking, jewelry, like all these prerequisites, graphic design, and sculpture was my thing since high school. Sculpture was my thing, and I along the way picked up photography too. I really liked the idea of those two, and in the end, sculpture won. But
well, I'm glad it did.
Yeah, in the end, sculpture won. But I still liked all of the processes in art. You know, it's different for everyone, and when you're doing different processes, it's just your brain is just. And I'm a sucker for learning. Like, I really like academia in that sense. I really like college for the connections, more importantly than anything, but also just being like around the constant flow of creativity.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's.
So what brought you from Humboldt to Monterey?
From Monterey, whew, I got a job here at a local artist. You know, he has his own foundry here, and like a world-renowned artist. He's really good. And I had a job there because my roommate in college is from Salinas, and she moved back home. She got a job there. They were looking for artists. She hit me up, and within, like, I graduated in 2012. Within like 6-7 months, they called me up, and at that time I thought my life was over because I had applied to grad school. I really wanted to pursue I really wanted to teach, but to teach you, I want to teach college level, and for that you have to have a master's.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I applied to grad school. You know, I had a good situation going on, and I thought I was the shit, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. And then grad school was like, you suck. Nah, we don't want you. And that was like a big like blow for me personally. I was just like, wow, like, oh, my ego. And then they called me up down here, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go do this. And so I came down here, started working for that guy. I learned a lot there, and then I hated him. So I went to work for another sculptor, who's a friend, and Carmel. Okay. And then from there I got to work at the Monterey Sculpture Center. That is not here anymore, sadly. But after that, I just kind of got stuck here. It's pretty beautiful, and it's kind of hard to beat. So I was like, well,
not a bad place to get stuck.
Yeah, and I was like, well, there's got to be something. There's going to be something, you know. And boom, here we are now. Like, that is just trippy.
So that event where you were painting with Avellino and G and outside of other brothers, was that like really your first time kind of just painting?
So that was the time you saw me was the second time. The first, because they had us before, like, it was an event before that. Mm-hmm. And that's where I met Avellino. Mm-hmm. It was super intimidating. That was the first time, like, I went out there super unprepared. And Avellino's right next to me with Meño, you know, his brother, and they're just setting up like this and, you know, painting. And I'm here with my stuff, and I have no idea what I'm doing. And Avellino was like, hey, help her out. And Meño, like that, just like posted and I was just like, awesome. Yeah. And I was like, oh, thank you guys. Like, that's so cool. Within half an hour, he's gone. He's just like, psh, sold, gone. I was like, what? And then the next time when I saw you, that was the second time I've ever been out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just remember the first time I met you, and you had your overalls on, and you're painting. I don't know which one it was.
I think it was a snake.
The snake.
Yeah.
And I remember just, I think it was Avellino. I was like, "This is C or whatever," and I just said hi, and you're like, I don't paint as fast as him. Like, that was your first thing that you said to me. I was like, okay.
Yeah, because Avellino had been like, hey, I'm working on this thing at the museum. Why don't you come and help us? Mm-hmm. But I didn't take him seriously. Like, I'm not a painter, you know. My background is totally different, so.
She's a painter now.
Right. Getting there. So he's like, come help us. And I was like, yeah, sure. And then he's like, you know G? And I'm like, who doesn't know G, right? So he's like, just because he was leaving, he was like, talk to him and yeah, come help us out. And I was like, uh-huh. And then he was like, do you like Jimi Hendrix? And I was like, yeah. He's like, here. He just hands me like a portrait of Jimi Hendrix and I was like I was floored. I was just like, whoa, this guy, who's this guy? And then G comes over and he just tells me a lot of information real quick and disappears. And I was just like, all right, cool. I didn't make anything out of it. And then when I met you, like that next time, they were like, oh, like, why, like, come on, like, why don't you come? And I was just like, you know, I was just, but then Arsenio showed up. And he was serious. Like, the other two were like, you know. But then Arsenio shows up with Kristen. And I remember because we had the masks. And you were just like, you know. And there's this cool Arsenio way. Just like, hey, so, you know, introduce yourselves. And he was like, yeah, why don't you come and help us out down at the. And I was just like, okay. And I remember being like, this is what I look like. Just in case. That's right. So the mask was like, this is what I look like in case. And then after that, I was like, I guess I have to go. like I already told them I was gonna go and I didn't, and then I saw them again. Embarrassing. So after that, I was like, well, this guy means business, so I'm gonna go and see what happens. And
let's talk about that a little bit. So we're talking about the mural that we did at the Dali, which is a ceiling mural.
My neck hurts just thinking about it.
So we spent how long do you think we were on that one? Maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks?
4 weeks, I would say, because...
probably a full month.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we invite C to come work on it with us. How it works out this way, I don't remember, but basically when we began the project, Avelino and G could not be there.
Mm-hmm.
So here comes C. The first day it's on me to get it going, but C comes and it's like, this is the first time I've ever worked with her. Like, we still barely know each other, and it's just like, hey, all right, let's take on this massive project of painting a ceiling, which it's a good
35-foot ceiling. I don't know what that means.
It was also like a weird shape.
yeah, it's like a triangular shape in front of the dolly. Anyone in Monterey, go check it out. It's literally right in front, and just look up. But it's 35 feet on one wall. So I imagine it's a good, I don't know. It's a big wall.
Yeah.
It's a big ceiling.
Yeah.
And so, the dolly was awesome with helping us with that. They got us a scissor lift, which was instrumental for the first.
Yeah.
You didn't get to experience that, unfortunately. You came in after the scissor lift. But to start, we had a scissor lift. And, yeah, so me and C are there. And, I've had a lot of experience with murals, but not a whole lot with ceiling murals. And obviously, C, that was your first
I know.
mural. And so, me and her, all right, let's figure this out. And what's funny is originally we had one plan. So me and C go with the original plan, and we're supposed to make a big, a blue undercoat. So we spend the whole day putting this primer coat on. Come to realize the artist that we were going to bring on to do, his special thing or whatever for that never even comes. So we did all this work for nothing, and that's basically how we started this mural.
Yep.
I think we bonded on that. We're like,
yeah.
All right, here we go.
We're gonna cover everything with just paint. No big deal. We did it once. We can do it again. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, I think after that day, especially it was a couple of days on. It was just me and you.
Oh yeah, especially because we didn't have there was no real concept. There was let's just make it to look this way, and we were like, yeah, and then what? And we just,
That's what was crazy about that mural. We never really had a full concept.
No.
We just had ideas, and I like how it came out because it was so on the fly, and I think for us as a team, it was huge to have that as our first project together because it was really bonding experience for us.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about being thrown into a situation where you better be comfortable with the people you're around. Otherwise, it could have went bad real quick. None of us had an ego about it. No one was trying to be like, no, this is what I want to do and this and that. We all just said, hey, go for it. If you feel something, just do it, and, we'll make it work. The only one that got anything covered up on that mural was me, but
I know. And that was sad. I really like that cloud situation. Because the first, it was just we were just throwing ideas, and then, some people paint really fast. You were just psh, 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 psh. And then they were like, no.
Yeah, Avelino covered my work.
Oh
and then why I wasn't there either, which is funny. But it worked out. It ended up getting up there in a better way. But
for me, honestly, it felt like I was on tryouts. I was there. I was the least experienced in painting, and I am working on a mural. And I thought I was just help, because I'm used to I work with artists, with sculptors, and you're just the help. You come with the color for a sculpture for someone, but it's their work, So you're just the help, and that's how I was going there with that, and then afterwards you guys were like, all right, well, let's see what we do next.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm in. I made it. Okay.
Well, that's what I love about how Avelino approached those first couple projects, where he just wanted to see what everyone had, and it's just go for it.
Yeah.
And I think that was really important to all of us, to feel comfortable with each other. It was to be given that freedom to express yourself as an artist, but we also had enough experience and talent in the group to make it work. If we were all just beginning artists and not really knowing what we were doing, that could have went bad real quick. But, you know, between us, we were able to use our experience to be like, okay, they want to add that. How do we incorporate that without it looking, you know, not looking too crazy? So I think that was really cool how that all came together.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
And you, had you worked on many murals before?
Nope.
So that was really...
I had not really done murals. Like, I'd helped on one in high school, like, barely. And then, but yeah, I've always really liked murals, and I really like the murals in San Francisco, especially in the Mission.
Yeah.
And I even, like, during the pandemic, like, before I met you guys, I had applied to be, like, a mural tour guide and everything like that. Like, I knew I wanted to, like, be around that type of, like, environment. So, yeah, it was cool to do that mural with you guys and, like, kind of feel it out. And then after that, I went to LA and I did a mural with my partner at his mom's house. And that was, like, that was good, too, because it was figuring out, like, how I would do the process from start to finish, but also, like, an entirely, like, different material, different climate, like, knowing how those variables, like, make a difference, too. And then, yeah, after I got back from LA, we did the Project Caterpillar.
Project Caterpillar.
Yeah. And that was also, like, a good, like, next step in our, like, mural team project, just, like, feeling out how projects go from start to finish, how to do it as a group, and also, like, yeah, knowing, like, when someone else can step in for you, or, like, you know, sometimes one of us isn't gonna have, like, a good painting day. And to have someone to be able to recognize that and still, like, pump you up is really cool. That's how I felt with Avelino. I felt like I was personally, like, having, like, I was struggling on that mural because, like, I didn't really do anything super detailed. Like, I did the branch, and it was a huge branch, but I felt like you had, like, knocked out the entire, like, Dolly's face with spray paint, and I was just like, brown branch, and I was like, in my head, I was like, man, I went to art school for this. Like, I was just, like, really hating on myself, and I was, like, holding back tears. And I think Avelino noticed, like, that day he came, he was just like, Natalia, like, you know, like, play with it, do whatever you want, like, don't feel bad. And then he was like, you know what, guys, I think we should go eat lunch. And I was like, yeah. And then that's when, you know, we went down the street, had lunch, and that's when we came up with our group name. That's when we, like, decided, we were like, you know, are we really gonna do this? Like, if we're gonna do this, we gotta, like, stop calling us, like, as much as we are the dream team, like, we gotta stop.
We're the dream team.
That can't be, like, our real name. Like, everyone calls themselves the dream team. So I was like, you know, like, let's take this to the next level. Yeah.
That's interesting that you were there at that point, just because I remember being like, okay, we'll still trying to see if this is a thing, you know? Like, for me, I had just made it, right, into the team. Or not made it.
Just made it.
Made the cut. I made it. But just like, ooh, I get to do next round,
Yeah.
you know? Like, that's cool. And just being like, man, we don't even know if this works, like, yet, you know, in that sense. But, and then I remember just sitting there throwing names. And then we're like, La Neta. And then we're just like,
Yeah. We're like, that sounds kind of dope, though. Like,
That's how it started, La Neta way.
Yeah, La Neta way. And we were just like, all right, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's just think about it.
we were like, it's not official yet. Like, if we'll find something else better, and it, like, never came. So we were just like, yeah, this is it.
We couldn't get away from that.
Yeah.
After that, I mean, have you guys looked it up on the dictionary?
No.
What?
La Neta? What the definition? It's like the absolute most truest.
Yeah.
That's like the definition.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I
like
think
it.
so.
Yeah, no, that's how it's used, is like...
I mean, that's how I feel it's used.
It's a very, like, vague definition, but like the way it's used is like
It's the truth, yeah.
it's very cultural too, and like yeah.
My roommate pointed out that why was it La Neta since you were Colombian and I was not from, because La Neta is not supposedly, it's very
Mexican.
But it's particular to El DF, like this,
yeah.
like Mexico City. And I was like, Avelino and G are from Mexico City.
Yeah.
We can use it.
Yeah.
And she was like, I guess. I was just, you know.
Oh.
Yeah. I was just like, we can use it.
Yeah, I mean, I think language, like, travels a lot. Like, I remember going to Colombia and they didn't know any Mexican jargon at all when I was younger. And now, like, I go and they use pinche this and pinche that. And I'm like, pinche is a Mexican word. But same with way, too. Like, way, no one knew what way is. Like, way is like a bowl.
Yep.
And that's the only way. That's the only way that they use the word.
Neta way?
And yeah, and now it's like you go and you every now and then hear, you know, Mexican jargon, and I think it has to do with like media and all that stuff. Probably social media is a big thing too, but yeah, but
Much
still,
more
I
connected
haven't heard
world now.
neta in Colombia. It's very Mexican, but at the same time, you know, like I obviously being Californian, being raised in California, like I totally embrace the Mexican culture, and like a lot of my best friends growing up have been Mexican, so you know, I love and you know, I feel like if you're a Latino in California, like you gotta you know, be chill with the Mexicans.
yeah.
Well, and I think that's a important distinction. Like, even though we're all of Latin ancestry, like we all come from very different backgrounds, and I think it's cool to see that, like, in our group we're such a diverse group, even though, you know, we're all Latin, like I said, but we're so diverse. Like, there's just so many different aspects that we tackle as a group, and it's important to know that, like, just because we're all Latin doesn't mean, you know, obviously language is different, and and culture is different even within that community. And, you know, I really enjoy that aspect of it, because for me, I've always been in California. I come from California, so I don't really have my Spanish speaking roots, so to speak. Like, I'm not as familiar with it as you all are.
We'll change that.
Yeah, and you guys have been changing that, you know, like, you guys speak Spanish around each other all the time. I'm like, all right. I have to pick up words. I have to get into, like, I can kind of get where you guys are talking about, but it's really challenging me to, like, all right, you need to learn your Spanish, you know?
Yeah.
But I noticed the difference of, like, Colombian culture to Mexican culture now, as before, not knowing, you know, many Colombians, like, I didn't know, you know, that there was a major difference. And I think that's important for people to know, is, like, there's so many differences, even though we all speak Spanish. Like, Spanish is very different from region to region.
Well, even the fact that, like, you're not fluent in Spanish is completely valid to, like, still being a Latino identity. And also, like, how, like, you also lived in New Mexico for a while, and I know that the way that supposedly Chicanos use the Chicano term in Nuevo Mexico is different than in California.
So
I was
different.
just there, and apparently, the Chicanos there claim their Spanish ancestry over their Mexican ancestry. So there's the Mexicans in New Mexico, and then there's the Chicanos who claim either or their native ancestry or their Spanish ancestry, but mostly Spanish ancestry. Like, when I was in Santa Fe, I bought this print from a guy who was selling stuff, and he was like, oh yeah, I'm half Spanish, half native, like, I'm a walking taco. And I was like, wait, that whole phrase is so confusing, because I was like, tacos are Mexican. Like, but even the fact that, like, you've had that been in those different environments is, like, a very specifically American Latino experience. And, you know, navigating what it means to be Latino in any part of the world, and, like, what your background is a very diverse community.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and that's important too, like to realize that even in here in the U.S., like the language is so different from region to region. Like I didn't realize how different we talk here in California until I moved to New Mexico, and they're all like the big thing that everyone laughed at me about when I first moved there. They're like, "What's hella? Why do you keep saying hella?" I didn't even know. Like that's just a part of my language.
Better learn it. You better learn it. It's a cool thing to say.
Oh yeah, after getting to know me,
it's hella cool, you guys.
I've created a way different culture in New Mexico just being there. Like all my friends and stuff started taking on things that I said, and vice versa. You know, I started learning a lot of New Mexico culture, and I remember when I would come back here, I'd be speaking differently. Like La Neta way, like a lot of that slang was very prevalent in New Mexico. You had to use that to connect with people.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it was interesting to get that kind of culture shock within here in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but all right. Kind of going back to the adversity we dealt with on the murals, I want to talk about that a little bit 'cause I think that's important. I think, like you're saying, like the first mural, it was kind of smooth actually, you know, between us. Like there wasn't any real conflict. The second mural, we got, I think it was just part of the growing experience. Like there was just a bunch of things that happened that made us all be like, what's going on here? Is this really going to work? And I want you to talk about it, see, because it's a hilarious story to me now, and I think it's important because the bonding that came out of that, I think, is special. Oh man,
that was I was like, that was a fun one.
Yeah.
So, like from my perspective, you know, I just got out of surgery. You guys gave me like the easiest part to do this mural, which I was so grateful for because I was like, I don't know what I have.
Really easier than the branch?
Well, we wanted you to not be on a ladder. That was the important part.
But the branch was long. Like that's the branch is like half of.
I really love the branch.
Yeah. No, the branches. It's. Stop it, you guys. No, but I mean, I only had I just had to do the butterfly situation. Oh, the butterflies. But you know, it was like just a butterfly.
Which is not that easy.
Right. Come to find out, it wasn't. And here I am, like, all right. Well, I know my abilities, like. I think we went the night before, or the day before we started it. And we only did like 4 hours, I remember, because it was like I was like, okay, I'm going to cap myself. I'm like, I'm going to get it going, and then tomorrow, you know. So, yeah, I get it started. The next day, I remember it was just like everyone was doing their own thing. I had my headphones on. Enter G. Enter G. This guy comes over and like, he taps me on the shoulder. I'm like, what's up? And he's like, hey, let's do some yellow highlights here. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, he's like, yeah, like this. And he just grabs the yellow spray can. It just goes over.
And I mean, she basically had a full rendition of her butterfly already done.
I was just building like the colors, right? It wasn't popping. That's what was happening. Is that I didn't put I learned. I'm like, you put a white base if you want your shed to pop.
Because it was on a black wall.
Yeah, and that was just killing me. But you live and you learn, you know? So she's like, yeah, let's just put some yellow highlights. And I just kind of like stood back, kind of like, what is happening, you know? Like, what? And then he's like, well, you know, maybe we can just balance it with orange. And then he just grabs the orange spray can.
He basically spray painted over her whole butterfly.
Yeah. And I was just like, all right, I'm going to go for a walk. And I just disappeared for a while. And then I was just like, I can't let my teammates down. Like, we have to finish. And I don't know why it was imperative that we finished it that day. Why did we do it in 2 days? Oh, there was an event.
No, Avelino was leaving, but yeah, we wanted to try and get it done.
Oh, there was an event that night,
too. There was a Halloween event.
Oh, yeah. At the end, I was in a onesie.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I definitely was just like, let's just do this. And we pushed through it, finished it. I was hammered by the end, probably, because, I mean, I was just like, well, let's just get some beers. It'll be fine. You can do it. She was like, we still have like 8 hours left. We can do this. And I was like,
yep.
Yeah, I don't know if my body can do all that, you know? But, I mean, I got done in the end, and it looks awesome. And it did need the fucking highlights. That was the whole thing about it. You know, that idea. I was just like, well, it did need the highlights. It did need it to be brighter.
That's what was funny about it. Is like you knew G had like good intentions about it and wanted to help, but his execution there was pretty poor. Like he didn't ask, he just kind of went in for it. And I'll give you my perspective because I was up on the ladder while all this is happening, and like I got a big piece. Like I'm doing the Dali face, which is dominant part of the mural. And so there's a lot that's going through my head. I think mine's looking like crap at the moment. So I'm like just trying to figure out how to make it work. And then all of a sudden, yeah, it was that, especially in that morning.
It was a vibe.
That morning specifically is like everything fell off. Like we were all just kind of, and I could feel it. Like I felt the tension in my, especially when G went, like I'm on the ladder and I see him doing that. I'm like, oh no, he's not going to do what I think he's going to do. Oh, I couldn't even focus on my part anymore because I was just watching this happen below me. I'm like, no, don't do that. And I should have said something, but I wanted to see it play out just because I think that was important just to see how you dealt with it, too. Like, there was a lot that we were trying to figure out. Is this team going to work?
Yeah.
And so I see him pick up the spray can. I'm like, shit, he's going to go for it. And he did it. And then at that point, I was just looking at you. And I was like, how's she going to react? And you did. You walked away. And at that moment, I was like, oh, no. And I got down off the ladder. I was like, what's going on to G? And he's just like, oh, I'm just helping her out and this and that. I was like, oh, no, you should have done that, bro. He's like, what are you talking about? Like, it didn't register to him till later when you were, like, sitting back there, and we finally could all tell that you were hurt by that.
I was just like, oh man, like first of all, I was kind of in shock, so I didn't react either. I was just, because people were like, why didn't you say something? Why didn't you, like, hey, stop, drop and roll, whatever, No, I just stood there, and I was just like, okay, because I don't know, it's G, they know how to paint, and maybe I was gonna learn something new. I did, but I was like, oh, and I just stood back. I remember you were like, what's up, C? Did you not like your butterfly? And I was just like, I guess I needed highlights. I just like walked away. I was like, I need to like, because there was for me there was a time pressure, like, and I talked with you guys about this, how my, like, I feel that one of my weaknesses is that since I'm a new painter, I have this, like, I have to, like, be up there. Even if it's not, even if it's not coming from you guys, it's just in my head. So I was just so, like, we have to finish this today. And we started the day before because of, and it was just, I just crashed and burned for a second.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, what you gonna do? Like, what you gonna do? Go fix it. And then thankfully it all worked out in the end. Like,
no, I knew I liked how you dealt with that afterwards, because you bounced back really strong. Like, you made that butterfly look great, and then you were, not only that, like, you were the energy for our team afterwards. That too, you, like you said, you came in that onesie and like you just picked up everyone's mood after that, which I thought was super impressive. When if anyone had an excuse to not feel good or just like get out whatever and let's just finish this, like, it would have been you. But you brought up the energy of the team that day, and like after that I was like, oh, I love C. And it was a cool experience to see you kind of work through that. And
it's the power of the pink onesie.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like all of this is like so important to recognize that, like, the importance of communication, because at like, as much as like C handled that really well, like if like I just learned this like a few weeks ago, and I was like, wow, I was oblivious the whole time like this happened. And so like we're each individually like navigating like how each of us are. Like, I didn't know like if it was me being sensitive with G, because I know G's like really outgoing now, and that like apparently everyone understands that. And I was like, oh, it's not just me, like G's like that. And so like for me, like I had to figure out like how each of us are. There's like first impressions, and then there's figuring out actually like how each person is and like what their strengths are and stuff like that, and being able to approach those strengths and weaknesses as a team.
Yeah.
So like for me, I learned the that G has really strong initiative in the school mural when he just really, really wanted to go in with those like kids on the river part, and we didn't even finish the river. and he just kept asking. We're like, you know what, man, just go for it. Until like he gets to the like little kids at the end, and I'm like, dude, these suck. Like I could not hold it back. I was like, I'm gonna have to fix this. But he went in and he like he gets stuff done. That's the thing.
Well, and that's what I super appreciate and love about G is like he pushes us all to like get on task, get things done, and even though it could be quick and kind of raw at first, that's the beauty of having a team is like we can go in and like we did for that mural, clean it up, make it look nice. But there's something to that about just staying on task, get things done. And on top of it, he always feeds us, which I love about that.
What is he, the pan dulce fairy?
Yeah, he brings the best pan dulce.
Those were fun. Those murals.
And then by the time we so that was our third mural, was the school one, and then by the time we did the Papachanos one, that's when we were like really getting our like shit together.
Yeah, we found a flow on that one for sure. But let's talk leading up to that too, because I know there was some concerns you brought up about the communication, and I think that was important for me to hear. Because, you were real quiet in the beginning, just kind of doing your own thing. And then you start voicing concerns about the designs and stuff and saying, me and C aren't being included in the initial design phase, which happened on the counterpoint mural. And I took that to heart, because I didn't want you guys to feel left out or anything. So I talked with Avelino and G. I'm like, hey, how can we make sure that they feel like their voice is being heard? And I like that you stepped up and just said, "Hey, let's have meetings. Let's discuss designs together, and all come up with the concept together." And I'm not sure if we did that for Papachanos. I think we talked about the design.
So the Papachanos one, the thing is like when projects come, they come quick.
Yeah.
And you have to get on it. So the Papachanos one was just like, okay, Arsenio got the Papachanos one, or Avelino and Arsenio got it, and like you guys made you guys talked to the owners and everything. So, and you honestly made like a dope design, and we were all just like really ready for it. But it was after that I felt like I needed to bring something up, because it was the We Festival design. So C was in Mexico and I was in Colombia, and then I got back and I had to quarantine, and then I was only here a few times, and it was like we had got the gig, and you, G, and I specifically applied for the project. So and then we decided, we're gonna do this as a team. And then all of a sudden it was like there was already a design concept that C and I didn't get to pitch ideas to. And so that's why I felt like I had to bring it up, because like I was kind of just tired of being individuals working in a group versus being like a team and like doing things all together, and like making sure that at least we get to say what we want to say at the same time, rather than like, oh, G and Arsenio talked, and then Arsenio and Avelino talked, and then Arsenio and Natalia talked, and then C is like, okay. Whereas like, no, like, C, like you've been painting like for a year now, like you got input, you're an artist either way.
Right.
Like, whether you think you're a painter or not, you're still an artist, and you have ideas. Like, and I want to hear, like, from you, too. So, it was important for me to bring that up. And I, at the time, felt most comfortable with you, because we'd, did we do that mural together yet when I brought that up?
Yeah.
I think so,
yeah. So
we talked a lot on that mural, too.
Yeah, we hung out more, so I was just like, okay, Arsenio's kind of like the big bro to me in this situation. So I brought it up, and I'm glad I did, because I was still feeling out the G situation. I hadn't hung out that much with G, and Avelino comes every now and then, and so yeah. But I think now, like, we're all at, like, everyone's at the same level now, which feels really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. We need to talk about these things particularly, because
Yeah.
And I think that's what's been so special about, like, how we formed this group and how we continue to grow together, is that everyone's feeling like they have a voice. You know, even when you didn't feel like you had a voice, you were enough to, like, speak up on it. And it's my goal is to not make anyone feel like they're being left out, you know. So when you brought that to my attention, it was important to, like, all right, let's address this immediately and not let this turn into a bigger problem. But I really enjoy how it's been growing, and, like, I really love the approach we took to this We Create mural, and how we all just kind of sat there. And I wish we could have, like, recorded that, and maybe one day we will, like, how we approached that. Like, I like that approach where we basically all sat together, we got a bunch of pieces of paper, we said, okay, let's start throwing some designs.
The wall printed on it, no? The actual wall?
The wall printed on it.
Which helps a lot.
No, it was first with, like, G came in that day, and he was like, yo, a buddy of mine said, like, why isn't there more, like, Latino style murals? Right. And I was like, I'm gonna get on that right now. Like, I'm like, let's dump the old concept. Like, let's get on a new concept. And that's when, like, and because G was still fine with it. And that was the thing, is, like, sometimes I didn't know if how set G is on something or if he's flexible. And, like, now I'm learning, you know, G is a really flexible person.
Super flexible.
So, yeah. So, and that's when we were all just brainstorming, which was so cool.
Yeah. No, I've had that in a smaller scale before, but to have 5 different minds working to create a concept was really cool. And I think how we ended up, you know, how the vision ended up coming together, I thought was special. And I'm really excited for this mural because everyone had a voice in it. It's not going to be an easy mural.
No. But it's going to be dope.
There's going to be a huge challenge in implementing it, but,
I try not to think about it.
Yeah, I trust like, everyone here. And
I'm like just waiting for the week that it comes. We'll just, like, we have the ability, just trust our ability, but I don't want to think about it.
Like, it's going to be a challenge, but I'm excited for it. So I'll throw that out there. August 23rd through the 28th. If you're in Monterey County in the area, come check us out. We're going to be in Sand City doing a mural live for the whole week. You get to come say hi to us. We'll be up on the lifts working. But
bring us some burritos.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a lot of other cool artists. Like, I'm excited to see other professional muralists from all over the world working on murals. Like,
yeah, that's intense.
They got some legit artists coming out. Like, I've been looking at their profiles, and there are some impressive artists that I'm really excited to see what everyone comes up with. But
no pressure.
No, not at all.
I mean, the thing is, though, like, we were selected for a reason. And, like, I think the cool thing with artists is, especially what I've been noticing more with public art versus, like, the art world where it's like painting and sculpture and stuff like that. Public art is a different realm in a way, and, like, it's way more accepting and open to just, like, getting as much people as we can out in the world making art. It's like the art world, you know what I mean by when I say that, is like very closed off.
That's the beauty of public art. It's like it's so in your face out there. So, like, there's not a whole lot that they can do to kind of shackle it, I guess.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, even if they try to, like, cities do try and do that. That's what I love about artists. Like, there's a bunch of amazing underground graffiti artists out there who will just say, fuck you to cities, and they'll just go ahead and do it anyways, you know.
But as much as, you know, the local governments have a say, so do does the community, because you know, a local business owner who says fuck the city, will be like, yeah, you can paint this mural on my wall. You know, like,
True.
the community has a huge voice when it comes to public art.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about it, too.
No,
Yeah.
it's definitely important.
Yeah, murals are. You know, it's interesting that I was thinking about how, like murals specifically, because I was trying to figure out my next thing. You know, like after not being able to do sculpture for many reasons, but one of them being the fact that only rich assholes can afford bronzes.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry, not only rich assholes can afford bronzes, but for the most part, it's catered to a certain demographic, a demographic that I don't even. Either I'm not a part of, I don't understand. I have no interest in being a part of, in a way. And I was thinking, like, how do I get as far away as from? I mean, I'm gonna still do it because it's my passion.
Yeah.
But how do I get it? How do I almost like? It's like an evil, right? How do I make up for this evil? And it was
Yeah.
like murals.
Yeah.
Murals.
Yeah.
Murals are free for the people.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
they're for the people. And
100%.
yeah, so I was like, yeah, murals is the next thing. Like,
I think the beauty of murals is that it really goes down to like the core values and reasons that we as children were probably making art in the first place. You know, it was about, you know, feeling good making something. Like, that's part of the reason that artists pursue art, is because they have this urge in themselves to just make something, to produce, and, you know, to use this little fucking meat vessel to do something, you know, and
Meat vessel, that's so good.
and then make something beautiful that feels good, you know, that, you know, makes other people feel good. And you know, also it's a way to honor life. And when you go to school and you go to art school and you start thinking about concept and politics and stuff like that, it really, and like, even when you get too much into like, oh, am I even making this right, you get too much into the process. Like, I was really beat down. I was like, man, like, people really don't like realism. Like, why, like, realism is too close to photography. Like, why am I painting this? It really just, it's really toxic culture. And part of the toxic culture really comes from the fact, like, who has money? Like, it's white men who didn't even study art, who have a shit ton of money, that are investing in art. They're not even putting that shit on their walls. They're putting that in, you know, storage somewhere. It's an asset. And that's deciding the value of what type of art is good. And it's like, it's completely arbitrary. So, and that trickles down into the institutions, which trickles into, you know, art school. And now all these little skaters and, you know, goth girls are feeling shit about their art. And, you know, once you leave that, you're just like, whoa. Like, yeah, I feel like I literally felt like leaving art school like a year late. Like, it took like a year for me to like process everything, because as much as like Sevilla and I could be in the same class and having the same experience and feeling really insecure, we're also like gonna be toxic to each other, because I'm like, fuck you, and she's gonna be like, fuck you to me. And like, when in the end, like, we're having the exact same experience, even though we're probably making different art. And then once you leave, you're like, oh my god, like, I need to like process this shit. And so yeah, public art is like extremely refreshing, because in the end, you're like, who fucking cares, like, what it is? Just make it, like, do it. And yeah, it's for the people, like C said.
Yeah. No, it's important to have those two different distinctions, you know? Like, for me, I didn't go through an art education, so I never got to really feel that world. I got a taste of it just in my art experience working with galleries and doing all that. And the one experience I had in art school was I had a high school art teacher who just wasn't that good. And it, like, just turned me off. Like, she kept telling me what to do. And, like, for me, I've always been a decent artist. Like, I've always been, you know, drawing and stuff. And I painted a mural when I was in middle school. And, like, ever since then, I was like, oh, I can do this. But I never took it seriously, but in high school, I was like, all right, I got to take an art class. So I took an art class, but the lady was just, you could tell, like, she had a way of doing things. She wanted everyone to do it that way. And it's really hard. Like, that turned me off to art schools because it made me feel like, oh, there is a set program for this. And to me, I've always believed that art's expression. So there's no, how can you tell someone how to express themselves, basically? Like, you got to give them the freedom to be able to innovate. And I will say my very first art teacher taught me that in middle school. The guy who actually let me paint a mural, like, he was the total opposite. He said he saw what I was doing in the class, and he's like, okay, you don't need to do the curriculum. Let's just put you outside. Go ahead and paint a mural. He could tell I was just thinking way outside the box. Like, I remember the one project we did in that class was he had 3 people work together, and we each had a panel. And you couldn't talk to each other about what you were doing. You just had to paint and then come together and figure out how to make your panels come together.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It was a really interesting project because you didn't really know the people and stuff, and then we're kids, so we super shy and whatever. But then I painted something, and they painted. I wish I could remember what I remember. I painted like soldiers. I had just watched in another class Apocalypse Now. So I was all into this weird vibe of jungles and soldiers, and so I painted the soldiers' helmets popping up through the foliage of the jungle. And then the girl that I was paired up with, she painted like this turtle on a ship, and it was like just very bubbly and like total extremes. And I forgot what the other dude did, but it was just funny when we came together and we're like, how the hell are we gonna combine these? And I wish I had an image of that, somewhere. But it was really cool how we did it because the girl was really instrumental and just, like, she thought outside the box. She's like, okay, we could make, like, your jungle coming into my lake and this. And, like, she just figured out how to combine them all. And, like, I was super impressed with that. But I remember the teacher looking at us, and it was actually the 3 of us that he said, okay, you guys are going to go outside and you're going to paint murals. And it was just... He was a really good teacher in the sense that he tailored his curriculum to the artists, to the kids, figured out what you were good at, and then he let you go about that. And he was, to this day, like, I haven't had many art teachers, but he was absolutely my favorite because he could see where the potential was, and he tried to play to your potential rather than what you've told me about art school where, you've had professors and stuff who their whole job is to break you down.
Soul crushing.
And it actually isn't, but they do it.
Yeah. For certain things, that's important. Like, I could see that with, like, I come from martial arts background as well, and in martial arts, that's important because people develop bad habits. So you got to break down those bad habits and then build them back up. But I don't know. It's not applicable to
the thing
every
with
situation.
college is a really complicated environment because you have so many different types of people. You have, like, super rich international students that don't need to work. Then you have more locals. You have people that are, like, immigrants too, that are working 3 jobs and still expected to have the same work ethic as the person who doesn't have to work at all and buys all their meals at restaurants and at the on-campus cafeteria. So it's like, it's really hard when you think about it that way because, some people don't have time to go to their studio at like 2:00 in the morning every like other Friday and Saturday. Because they had work and they have to sleep and then they have to go work again.
No, that's a good point.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that in this country specifically they charge so much for school, and it's like it rests solely on the students. To pay their own way through school. If you don't get a scholarship, you're either working the whole time or you're on student loans, which is what I did. I did both. And yeah, I mean, I could imagine if I was going through art school trying to juggle all of that.
Yeah, it's messed up too because if you make too much money at work, then you don't qualify for as much financial aid. So it's really not meant to benefit, unfortunately, lower income people.
No. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I hope that changes, you know, because if we want to have an educated and strong populace, like, you want people to be, you don't want people, I got to take this from another podcaster, but Joe Rogan always says, like, you don't want people to be losers in a society. So the job of society is to make people become winners, you know, like, and that means you invest in people and you make people, you know, get skills, help people to attain skills and be better citizens. And just, it seems the way that they go about it in this country, it's just all about profit. So, you know, it's not really about making people into better, you know, have better skills or whatnot. It's just how much money can we suck out of this person, you know, and starting at when you're getting out of high school.
Oh,
you know?
yeah. I mean, yeah, that's another reason why, like, right now that I'm doing the artist lifestyle where I'm just living off my art, people are like, dude, you're a starving artist because you want to. Like, you could be teaching. And I'm over here like, you don't understand. I know too much. I don't want to be a part of that system.
Yeah.
Like, there are better ways to do it. Like, I think, like, the shop is, like, a great example of that. Like, here, the possibilities are endless.
Yeah.
I mean, I could be teaching classes here, you know? Like, you don't have to follow this. It's just such an indoctrinated, like, mentality that, you just gotta... I mean, college was great. Don't get me wrong. It was one of the best experiences of my life. I learned so much, like, art, like, just everything. It just overload. Yeah. And I wouldn't be here. I would not be here had I not had all that. But it just, the system situation, like, I don't want to be a part of that. Like, I want to be a part of whatever comes after that, because we have to figure out, we have to be able to break out of that in a way. Yeah. Isn't that what we're here for, artists?
Absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up. Like, it's a good segue into, none of us have jobs, right? Like, jobs per se. Or did you?
No.
Yeah.
We're starving artists, you guys.
I don't want to say starving artists because I'm not that starving. But we're all working artists. Right. And I think that's, I want to get your guys' perspective on that, because people don't... I grew up on that too, you know, the starving artist kind of myth. And my life goal is to prove that you don't have to be a starving artist. You just have to work as hard as you would at anything else, and probably harder, to make it work. And the only reason you have to do that because there is no structure. When you decide, I'm going to rely on my own hands, my own skills to create a living for myself, there's no one that's saying, okay, you need to clock in, do this and that, and you'll get paid. It's basically, I need to go out there, make the product, then be able to sell it or market it to the right people who want to support me. And then I have to, and at the same time, I got to be willing, I have to also express myself and not get caught up in trying to do for them, you know. And so there's this crazy balance that happens. But if you find your right formula, it could. This is the thing that isn't discussed enough. There's no ceiling for it. Yeah. Like, there's no book or no anything that says, oh, I can only charge this much for what I do. Like, if I do it right and do it to my capabilities and get with the right people, I can make whatever I want. And it only goes up the more known you get as an artist. So I think that's important to make that distinction.
And it's constantly evolving, as much as technology is evolving. So, you know, digital art is an entirely new thing, but it's huge right now. And also the instruments and tools that are becoming more and more available to artists, like social media now connects an audience to the artist directly without the need of a gallery. So there's that question of what's the function of a gallery nowadays, and also things like the whole NFT thing, the non-fungible tokens, and the potential for that is really huge. And I think the main thing with that is making that more accessible to people that not all artists are digital artists, and how can you make something so techy accessible to someone who isn't necessarily on the same page of understanding technology as a digital artist. And I think that there are people that are in the works of doing that, and that's the cool thing, is that everyone's always, there's always going to be people actually trying to like do things for artists as well, like but yeah.
So describe a little bit of your experience just trying to work with your art, some of the challenges, and also some of the opportunities that make you want to continue pursuing.
Oh man, I think the biggest challenge has been that my artwork is so personal. It's so it's a process. It's how I process, and it's been really hard to like put a price on that per se, and also when you're working, like, this is all new to me, and I'm like, all right, I need to figure this out. Like, I'm very much in the thick of it, because it's I've always worked by myself, clearly, like, so being in a team has been really good, because sometimes you have people who, like, I'm doing simple things like portraits. Because you see them, you do them, they look alike, it's good. But when you have to talk about concepts with people and having to create for someone, it's so hard for me. It's so hard, because I'm like, if you don't vibe with that person and you don't get a sense where they're coming from, just because I'm that type of person, So it's been hard in that sense, but it's also so rewarding, because it's pushing me to another limit. I'm doing things I've never done before, and like you said, it's only getting better.
How important is it to like have someplace like here, the shop, and having other artists to bounce ideas off of, like what you're saying? Like, we all go through that, but to me, it's really helped me to be able to hear that from you, and realize, oh, I'm not alone in that. That's normal. Yeah. That, to me, that helps out a lot. Yeah.
I think it's just a lot of, that's a lot. Like you were saying, you had to take a month off of school to, like, recover. I feel like it takes a lot to get rid of all that old mentality almost, and try to, like, switch it over to this side. It's fun, that's for sure. You'll never know. It's always like, it works out. Like, it works out. You never know what's coming next, and that's exciting and terrifying at the same time.
Well, it's cool too, is like opportunities come out of nowhere.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
One example is like, you know, I know you've been struggling with your hands and stuff, but but then, you know, a lady came in
with the 2 sculptures.
and asked me to do sculptures. I'm like, I don't do sculptures, but I know someone who does, and, you know, I reached out to you, and that gave you a project where you were able to make some money off of, and, you know, so I think that's important about having some place like this too, which I've loved the shop for that. It's like everyone promotes each other, and also everyone, like, I've gotten so many jobs out of this place just from, you know, powers up there saying, oh, look, here's an artist that can do that, or Jess, you know, hey, I can't do this, but Arsenio can do that. Like, that's how we got Papachanos, was Chris went in there, and he's like, hey, you guys need, he basically went in there, he's like, hey, you guys need paint up there, and they're like, well, we were thinking about it, and then he introduced Avellino.
That's how that happened.
It was Chris that made that happen, so shout out to Chris.
Yeah, I mean, I think the cool part about art is that, like, as much as you might feel like there's no opportunity out there, it's all dependent on you, because you make the opportunities for yourself. Exactly. So you wanted to do an art show with Avellino, with the fighters and the dancers, so you did it. And like, you
Yeah.
know, I don't know if you sold paintings. Avelino sold a painting, right?
Yeah, I saw
You know.
painting. He sold 4 so far.
Yeah.
So he's kicking ass with
you
that.
know, that's the thing is like in with art, everything counts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, and that's there is a lot of value in that. You know, that people you're always gonna find someone that likes what you're doing and that you can share your passion with.
Yeah. That's like a big hope of mine, like being able to work with you two and all the artists around here. Like it's given me more motivation to really push and like just share my process and share what I do. Like even that art show, like I tried to be very open and show everyone, look, this can be done. Like we didn't go to a venue. Like thank you to the shop for like opening up and allowing us to do that. But you know, they all have their things going on. So there was no one really here to be like, okay, what do you need? How can we set this up for you? It was on me and Avelino to do everything from day one to finish. And we had, you know, great help along the way. I can't express enough Joey out there. Like he really helped us set up and make it a great show. But I mean, if it's my hope that when it's all said and done for me in my life, like that all the artists that I work with just see that my work ethic is what gets me to where I'm at, you know, and if I could just show that you don't need to be especially skilled in anything. Like I've worked a long time on my art. There's a lot of long hours in my studio by myself, just drawing, hating what I'm doing, going through all the emotions of like, oh, this sucks, and tearing myself down, then bringing myself back up when I finish a piece and starting all over when I do the new one. All that was so that I could get to a place where I could just put up a mural, you know, in a day. And I liked telling that story about how you don't pay an artist for the time they're there working on whatever. You're paying them for all the years that they put into it to get to that point and being able to knock out a drawing in a half hour for you or whatever, you know? Like, and I think I hope that I can be a symbol of that for, you know, you guys, because I know you're at a earlier stage, and even though you've gone through the art career, you're just going out on your own now. And I can say I've been in it for a while, and I've been there. I've been there not knowing what I'm doing, not making a lot of money, just struggling. Thank God I had a family that, you know, helped me out along the way. Like, that's important to have people that will support you in your endeavor. You know?
I will say I am a lot happier now. Even though I don't have a lot of money, I am a lot happier now than working for under the thumb of other people.
Yeah.
Like, after that, I was just like, I got this. I can do this. It's just, you just have to figure it out. You have to figure out what you're after. And, you know, there's other, like, things going on with my physical body. Like, I'm getting to know myself all over again. Like, you know, I had all this, I had it all planned out. Like, I had my career going on. I've been at it for years. I was good at it. I was like, I'm fucking going places. And then my body was just like, no, you're not. And then I had to go through surgery. And then I'm still recovering. And who knows if I will recover at this point. And it's just a lot of like, all right, well, I can't do this anymore. This is the next thing. And we'll see if it works out. If not, we'll have to revamp the whole thing. But yeah.
Well, we're rooting for you.
I'm never going back.
Yeah. And I think having the support system that we have here, like, none of us is going to let someone else, like, and I've told you that before, like, you always have support from us. Like, even if, you know, you don't have somewhere to sleep one night or whatever, like, you always have somewhere to sleep, you know, like, and I know I feel the same way, vice versa. But I do want to talk about, because I'm kind of switching it up here, but you took a trip to Colombia.
Yeah.
And talk a little bit about that, because that looked like a really cool experience.
Yeah, so my family is from Colombia, and my dad has a little piece of land there where he does habitat restoration, for native species, plants and trees. He is doing a lot of restoration for that local area, and I've been going there since I was 11 years old. And a few years ago, my dad had a little studio built on top of the tool shed for me, and he paid someone to make a easel for me. And so yeah, I was like, having been back in Monterey for a year, I've been living with my family. I don't have my own room. I don't even live in a room. I live in the living room. And all I had was my basement that comes up to here. And so that's why I was like, once I met you guys and the shop became a thing, I was like, man, this is like so perfect timing. That's the thing too, is like sometimes as long as you have the attitude to like go and get it, there's gonna be something there for you. And so I felt like I was depending a lot on the shop, and because I still didn't have the resources to pay for a studio. And I was like, I just needed a dedicated time where I know I can paint whenever I want, not have to worry about anyone else. So I was like, I'm going to go to Colombia. And I did that, and I set the goal for myself. I was like, I'm going to make 10 paintings in 6 weeks. I made 9. And
wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, so, and it was really good. And the thing is, like, now I learned that to have that, like, dedicated mindset and schedule, like if I at least do it once or twice a year, where it's like chunk of time of just making work, and then once I'm done with that, I can then focus on the marketing part of the career, and other aspects of what's important in an art career. But that was really good for me, and also it was the first time that I was really making work for me, not having to worry about a critique, not having to worry about a specific audience, just making work that mattered to me and what I've been thinking about. And that's, you have to stick to that, I've learned, because I think a lot of the cool thing about art is that it's also kind of like philosophy, and it's really personal, and it's kind of like finding it's so many things at once. It's like journaling, it's research. So that's one thing that I personally really like about art. And then I was also able to just really be in the environment there, and just like really think. Yeah, and we did a little show there too, which was
how did
really
that go?
It was really cool because we're really close to a family there, and the grandfather, Don Tomas, used to work on the farm for my dad, but he's so old now that he just monitors the cars down the road, but he gets bored. So one day he just came up to the property. It's called Agua Viva, and I just like hear him, and apparently my dad told me, he was like, oh yeah, Don Tomas wants to like see your work. And I told him, I was like, oh, you can go to my studio, you want to see my paintings? And he kind of just like ignored what I said. He was just like, oh yeah, just like wandering around. And I was like, oh, I realized he probably couldn't go up the steps. Because they were like really like wiggly. And I was like, yeah, I wouldn't want to go up those if I was like in my 70s either. So maybe 80s. So I was like, you know what? He's going to have to see my work. So I was like, I'm going to set up a show. And it was so cool. The whole family came. And I tried to make it as much like, a gallery show as possible because these are campesinos. Like, they are not exposed to that type of, anything. So I hung the paintings on the walls. If there was no walls, I had them suspended off of like the clothing line and then tied like anchored with rocks. I got my dad's, like, we bought wine. My dad makes ginger beer. We got crackers and nuts. And I made a playlist specifically for the show, like borrowed some speakers, and I had a little my sketchbook open so that they could write notes to the artist, which is what sometimes you do at shows. It's like notes to the artist. And it was so cool because I actually got, like, a lot of people wrote to me and they gave me their insights. And so it was really cool to see that they appreciated what I did, because I was like, oh, they probably, like...
What did Don Tomás say?
I actually have... can I grab my book?
Go for it.
Yeah.
This is so cool. I haven't heard any of this.
I know. I'm like, what? That is so sweet.
Yeah.
Like, you straight up went through the whole,
Yeah.
like the whole.
Because no one ever would see my art, really. I would just be in my studio and they'd be like, oh, this white girl's just, like, doing stuff. She's crazy. Like, in that little, like, tiny studio of the tool shed. So it says, Tomás García dice, la virtud y el talento como mensaje de los elementos naturales de esta reserva agua viva. Natalia Corazza demuestra su cariño por este territorio. Gracias.
Oh, wow.
So it's like the virtue and talent. Light is a message of the elements of this reserve. Natalia shows her love for this territory. Which was like so like an honor for me, because this guy is like he's like my grandfather figure in my life, because I didn't really know any of my grandparents, my grandfathers. So yeah, just having like you know, affirmation from these people was really nice, because growing up, coming from the United States, you know, there's a lot of insecurity of, you know, being la gringa, and feeling like I might be imposing on this community. But, you know, you have to make sure that you're uplifting the community if you're going to be going somewhere, like, as an outsider.
Yeah.
So to get that validation is really nice. And also to, like, I want those people to experience these types of things too. So it was really well received by that community. So next time I go, I told them, I was like, we're gonna make this a thing. Like, the wall that I used to put up some of my work, we now plastered it so it's really soft. And I was like, we're gonna do a community mural and we're gonna make it a theme. And now whoever participates in the mural, or even if you don't, if there's like artists from El Pueblo, they can show a piece that is related to the theme of the mural. And that could the beauty of murals is that you can constantly change it. You can start over and make a completely new one. You could add on to it. So I was like, I could make that a thing where it's like every 2 years, every 5 years, there's a new mural, a new show showing the work of the local artists.
Dude.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Awesome.
What?
Yeah. So yeah, I have this idea in my head for what I want for the mural to be when I go again, and I already have like a group of friends that were like, yeah, we want to do it. And it was cool too, because this last time I went, I met a lot of people my age that are artists, and I felt like I was really starting to like make friends, because it's hard to make friends when you're like, you go, you meet people and you vibe and then you leave, and then when you go back it's like you're strangers again. So this time I felt like I'm just like now like solidifying those relationships in a way. It's like, no, this they know that I'm someone that they can trust, you know, that is gonna, you know, uplift the community in the same way that they want to. Yeah.
So
That's
awesome.
such a cool story.
Yeah.
Wow.
That really shows how art, like you had the intention of creating your art, but like you were saying, where opportunities just come out of thin air sometimes, where you decide to share it, and it just opened up this floodgate for the community to be able to, you know, now you got other artists that want to share it. And that's the power of art, where it just you put it out there, you don't know what you're gonna get back,
Yeah.
but usually it's good.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, seriously. I'm like, you were saving that story for the podcast, huh?
Honestly, I forgot sometimes so many things happen.
Yeah. Because, damn, I mean, that note, everything. I'm just like, over here.
And they all wrote stuff. It was so nice. I didn't expect it at all.
So how many people from the community ended up coming out?
It was mostly the family, but my dad had a couple friends that came. There was the friend of the family, who his name is Wilson. He's a muralist in Cali, the city, and he came with his girlfriend. They were super cool. There were people from like the below the pueblo. So I would say a good like 50 people came, 30 to 50
That's
people.
crazy.
The family is pretty big too.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was really nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And it even rained, and Abuelita Doña Rosalba came with her husband Don Tomas in the rain, and I was like, oh my God. She's like this tall. She never comes up to the farm, and she's like made it. It was so cute.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I bet that will always be like a meaningful thing. Like even if you have like a huge show, let's say in San Francisco, I bet that show is going to be more meaningful to you in the sense that it's just that connection you created.
Yeah. Because I remember in art school, I was making paintings of, like, I made 5 portraits of the women there, and then I also did this huge painting, the coffee one, I don't know if you've seen it, and that's of Don Tomas and Don Midonio, and I showed that at school. I had it in a show and everything, and it was just received really differently, but it's important for me to, bring these people's faces and their values to, outside of where they are, because they're so easily, forgotten by the rest of the world. And it's just like, no, these are like people, and they're doing their thing, and their joy matters and everything. Yeah.
That's cool. I really like that painting that you have too. I know exactly which one you're talking about. Wow. Cool story.
Yeah, seriously.
And then you had a trip to Mexico. So these girls both traveled out of the country during the pandemic, which I thought was pretty cool.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Who does that? You shouldn't do that. You'll get COVID.
But yeah.
I did. Yeah. No, Mexico was fun.
But you did a mural out there.
COVID kind of, it's not finished in my eyeballs, even though I did it for an aunt.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember at the beginning, I was like, okay, basics.
Mm-hmm.
Psh, and she was really worried. She was like, oh my God, my wall, what happened? But then, and in fact, she didn't come out for a couple of days. She didn't want to see it.
It's better that people don't see it.
Right, and then she comes out like after the 4th day. She's like, oh, okay, that's starting to look like a waterfall. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, cool. It was a good experience to do something by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely was like, oh, I need, I don't know. I was limited by my body abilities again. I had to very much strategize the situation, and it was fun though.
It's a challenge though to go in a whole new environment and then decide, okay, I'm gonna put some artwork up. Mm-hmm. And you not being a experienced muralist. But you had told me before you left you were going to do it. So
well, the thing, I had a different idea. I really want to do a big mural. There's this big wall on the side of my house, but the wall was falling apart, and they were like, we have to tear it down and fix it. And I was just like, well, that's not going to happen. But I already bought a bunch of paint because I was determined. I was like, I'm going to make a mural. It's a small town in Mexico. It's COVID time. What else are you going to do? Mm-hmm. And that was my idea.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had all this paint and nothing to paint, essentially. I was just like, oh. And also the subject matter. Some of my family members were not crazy with the subject matter. Because, you know, people. And there's a different, like, it's actually really sad. There's not a lot of appreciation for art in, like in smaller towns, I guess. There's a muralist, the muralist of the town. He always does a mural on that side of the wall, and it always just gets ruined by kids and stuff, you know?
Wow.
Yeah. Which they were like, don't do, because I wanted to do a mural about my dad, but he was a political figure, so they were like, you know, they were afraid of what the people, because politics, you're never, it's never, so there was a lot of controversy about that, and I was just like, and they were all there, and I was like, I'm not going to deal with this. Yeah. And my aunt was like, well, I have a wall here. And her friends liked it, apparently, which was really nice. Bunch of old ladies. Just kidding. They're not old ladies. Yeah, they were all like, oh, it looks like a waterfall. And I was like, okay, cool. You know, I have a hard time with stepping away from things. And I know that one is not, in my heart of hearts, I know it's not ready. Damn you, COVID. But it'll be done.
It looks great from the progress.
From far away, yeah, it looks great. And she
everything looks good from far away.
Well, yeah, and she was
even the Mona Lisa.
and she was happy with it, and that was good. It gave me more than anything. I was just like, I need to practice for my team. You know, like it's a lot of good pressure, and I really like it. So it was more practice than anything. But yeah, it was fun. It was different.
Cool.
Blasting Hamilton all by myself.
Yeah.
No one to argue with. Not that I argue with anyone, really. I don't know.
Yourself.
Yeah. That's where the arguing is going on.
Actually, yeah. Well, there was more freedom because there was nobody else.
Yeah.
So I'd be doing something and I'd be like, Tss. Oh, well, I'll just paint over it. That's you know, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's no time constraint. It was purely for fun. Nothing crazy. I'm like, no, this was no.
Yeah.
The cat enjoyed it. It was there all the time, just looking at me work on it. So.
Yeah. That's the thing too, is that like painting, you're with yourself, and like the entire time you're painting, like you either get in this meditative state where you're just thinking about what you're doing, or you're constantly thinking about like all this other shit.
Yeah.
You're having like hypothetical conversations, and so sometimes you'll have a painting, but you look at it and you see the thoughts you were thinking like the entire time you painted that, and like everyone else is like, oh, this painting is about this, and you're like, not really.
That's so true.
Yeah.
I like how you said that too. Like, it is I've always attributed it to like being a meditation for me, where it really where your mind's at comes out on that painting pretty much every time. To me, it's a meditation, and at the same time, it's a battle, because you know, it could be very soothing and meditative when you get into that flow and you're just like, all right, I know what I'm doing, and it's just everything's working. But then it turns into a battle in the next instant when all of a sudden something goes wrong, and it's like all the bridge just comes crumbling down, because, you know, it just takes one little mistake to where your head just gets totally derailed. And then that's us as artists, we got to find tricks to kind of step away, figure out how to get our mind back to where it was. But it's a cool process, and it's something that people don't understand when they just see the final product. Like, they don't know that journey that it took to get to that. And that's why, like, showing my work, it's kind of a love-hate thing for me. Like, that's the whole point of it. Obviously, you paint something so that it can be seen, but, you know, for me, it's like, it's more the journey. Like, I enjoy the process of doing it. And then once it's done, it's done. That's why I don't really have a huge, it doesn't, like, I don't hold on to my paintings in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, once it's done, I don't care. Like, I've given away more paintings than I've sold by far.
Yep.
And I hear that sometimes, that, like, painting, like, definitely other artists like are very attached to their paintings. That's what I meant to say. I'm not attached to my paintings because once I'm done, I'm already thinking about the next one, and like it's just. I have a picture. Like,
Right,
to me, it's like if I have a
photo,
picture of it,
yeah.
then it's good, you know. But it's very easy for me to let go of most of my work. There's only a handful that I'm like, okay, these are mine.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's definitely a struggle, especially when you make like one of a. Well, I'm just thinking like in sculpture terms. When you make one of a kind, and you're just like, that's it. Like you'll never see it again.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's photos now. It's all good.
Yeah. Well, that's how tattooing is to me. It's like it's going away on someone else, and it's gonna be their artwork. But I'll probably, you know, unless I'm friends with them, like really close friends with them, I'm not gonna see that work, you know, that much anymore. So
Wow, I never thought about that actually.
Yeah, that's a very impersonal. Like you can't be attached to tattoos, obviously, because they're attached to someone else. But
Right.
But yeah, it's definitely an art form that's for the person, and that's why, that's you know, I know you're getting into it, and I think that'll help you with kind of detaching from your artwork is doing tattoos because you have to. Like it is literally an art form that isn't for you. Like the process you can enjoy, but the art goes every time.
Right.
So
Right.
it's really cool for that in that aspect.
Yeah. Performance art is like that too. It's in the moment. It's fleeting.
Very true.
Yeah.
That's why we did the war dance.
Yeah.
You know, it was kind of for that concept, was to show two art forms that are for that moment. Like think about fighters too.
Yeah.
They train for months and months, years, all for this 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 25 minutes if you go a championship fight in a cage to show everything you've learned over that journey, and hopefully it goes well for you. Or, you know, there's only one person that comes out on top. The other person, you know, you have to deal with that loss, and same thing with like ballet dancing and all that. Like you do all that work to just for that fleeting second, and that's why it was cool to do that art show to kind of capture those fleeting seconds. You know, my favorite of my pieces was the two women, you know, punching, because that was the one that captured a moment the best to me. Like you could see the expression in their faces, and just there was a lot of movement in that one. And with Avellino's, I think my favorite was for sure the girl in the red dress, the one that I think Jess bought. But you know, like, but all of his, like, he really captured movement in a moment. It felt good to be able to kind of give some due respect to those two art forms.
Fleeting moments. That got deep, you guys.
It did, and I wish I mean, I could talk to you guys for hours, but but let's start wrapping this up. I just have one more question for both of you. I want to just ask you, what motivates you about your art? Why do you continue to do it? And for you too, but I'll start with C.
Well, I have to. I just have to. Like it's literally the way I process things. Like I just have to do it. It has to come. Like when you were saying, some people, you just have to get that out there. You have to get it out. Like I'm not good at speaking, or like, so it just has to come out somehow. And it's been my process, and I just have to do it. I don't know what else.
I love that. That's a perfect answer for you. I have to.
For me, it's like, you know, everyone has their own way of seeing the world, and sometimes, you know, it's hard to explain it. It's hard to talk about it. Art is like language, and you know, the only person that is gonna understand what you think about best is you, and the one who's gonna care about it the most is you. So if it's on your mind so much that you have to do something about it, then just do it. And another thing too is like sometimes I like forget about like sometimes I forget like what it means to be an artist, like what people think being an artist is, and like I'm like I surprise myself that I like have this ability, because sometimes it's just like I have something in my mind and I do it and it's done and I'm like, oh, I just did that. I don't know what like the process necessarily was like obviously I was thinking about the process and everything while I was doing it, but it's like I can't believe I did that, you know, and like, you know, being in amazement of like one's ability is like really cool sometimes, like you know, oh, I can do this, like that's so cool. But yeah, I think it's also about, you know, finding magic in life, and I think art is magic sometimes, you know. And it kind of, it's fun to be an artist too, like as much as like it sucks, but like it's also like it's really special to be able to, it's like you have this like personal like relationship with everything. And I think that's so special. Yeah.
I like that.
How about you?
About me?
Yeah.
Well, what motivates me, to be honest, is kind of going along that 100% that magic that it brings to my life. Like, ever since I started chasing art, it's brought opportunities and challenges that have made me a better person, like every step of the way. It's like I've up until like 25, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. Like, I went to school for business. I started in architecture. Didn't like the teacher, the professors that I had in architecture. So, and then I realized, oh my God, I have to be in school for 12 years and possibly get certified to be an architect. It just seemed like way too much that I didn't want to do. So I dropped out of that. And once I dropped out of that, I didn't have any backup plan. So I just like, well, what am I going to do? And my buddy was in business. So I was like, all right, business it is. And at that point, it just became about fulfilling my parents' dream of having one of their kids graduate from college, you know. And I was literally the second of all my cousins to graduate. And the only one who beat me graduated 2 months before me.
What?
So,
I was the first one.
Yeah.
I was the first one in my family.
Yeah, so you understand.
Yeah,
like,
there's pressure there.
There's pressure, and it's just something that's fulfilling once you do it, like just to, you know, for them. You know, like to me, family's super important, and they've done so much to support me throughout my life that I wanted to give something to my parents specifically. So that was my whole goal through college, was just to finish, get it done, you know, make my parents proud. But then once I graduated, I distinctly remember this, like the day I graduated, my dad like made this speech to me, like with all my family, where he said, you know, like, I'm super proud of you and I'm glad that you did this, but now I get to sit back and watch what you're going to do next. And when he said that, I was like, oh shit. What am I going to do next? Like, it dawned on me, like, okay, I already knew I didn't want to, like, do anything with my business degree. Like, I didn't want to go in the corporate world. That didn't have any appeal to me. So, and at that time, I still wasn't really necessarily knowing anything about my art. Like, I didn't even really do that much. I had started just painting again, so I knew, okay, I'm gonna do this, but I didn't think of it as a viable career or anything at that point. Then when I moved back to California, I met an artist, the guy who taught me how to tattoo, who just opened up my eyes to the possibilities that art could bring. And it just, from there, I just dedicated myself. I said, look, I know what's possible if I just work really hard and I believe in myself. And I didn't believe in myself at that point. but I knew I could get to a point if I just worked hard, and that was just my mentality. Like, just work hard, do what you need to. Like, if you don't know what you need to do, just do something anyways. You know, just figure it out. And eventually, a process started to form. And I think that's the biggest gift that art's given me, is it's given me purpose. Like, I have these skills that I'm obviously good with, but how do they translate into a life? And it just took the hard work and believing in it. And, you know, like we've talked about on this podcast multiple times, it's like those opportunities just came out of nowhere when I wasn't looking for them, but I just wanted to keep pursuing this. Like, I've had the same issues with my family, like saying, you know, oh, everyone's liked me being an artist, and I've never had like huge pushback. But like my mom, for example, would always told me, why don't you just get a part-time job, and then you can do your art on the side. And like, she never quite got, I don't think to this day she quite gets it, that I wasn't just sitting around. Like, every part of my soul was going into trying to be better as an artist. So I couldn't just like, and I tried multiple times. Like, I got little jobs here and there, but every time I did, it just like, I felt like part of my soul was being sucked out. Like, I was like, I'm wasting time. I'm wasting time on this job. And the last job that I had was a security job in San Francisco. I was working security for this biotech company. And and Kristen was already down here. And so, like, I was going up to San Francisco to work for a few days, then I'd come back down here. And I was just burning myself out just doing that every week. And I was just like, why am I doing this? Like, just for this stupid job? Like, and so I finally told myself, I'm like, all right, I'm taking this dive again, because it's not the first time I took that dive. I would have a job, be able to pay my bills, and be like, all right, I'm cool. And then I'd be like, okay, I can quit now. I got bills paid for a couple months. I can just go into my art. And every time I did that, I would be able to last 6 months, and then it would get really tough again, and I wouldn't be able to keep money coming in. So, you know, it was this vicious cycle of, like, doing that. I'm like, is this the fucking art life? And eventually, I just realized I wasn't fully committing, like going down to that dark, deep crevice of like, the worst case scenario, and then, you know, coming back out of that. And
you have to go there.
You have to go there. Like, you have to. And that's something that probably is the best thing about my artist journey, is that it took me to those depths, and it made me really question myself, and made me really have to believe in this. Like, and I think that's the bet. Going back to the question, I know that's a long-winded answer, but basically what motivates me is that art has given me this purpose and given me a journey that I enjoy, and that not only that I enjoy, but it gives back to everyone around me. Yeah. Like, it makes my community better, it makes my environment better, and it brings great people into my life. Like, if it wasn't for art, I would have never met you two. I would not be here. So, you know, art is absolutely...
Yay, art!
Yeah. But yeah, just to wrap up, thank you guys for coming on. Like, I'm honored to be able to work next to you two. I'm excited
Likewise.
for what we're doing and what we're going to be doing in the future. Anyone who's watching, please follow these two ladies. Corazza, go ahead and tell you.
Nati Corazza, Naticorazza.
There we go.
Art de Sevilla, just like that.
Just like that on Instagram. And then also we have our mural Instagram, which is just going up. It's La Neta Murals.
NETA Murals, at La Neta Murals, with dots in between the words.
So
La.neta.murals.
Perfect.
I wish I had the big sticker. We have stickers and soon to have merch, right? Am I right?
We'll put it in the description of this video too. Yeah, we're gonna have all kinds of stuff going on, so please follow us. And
yes.
if you're in the Monterey area at the end of August, again, please come check it out. The We Create Mural Festival. The We Create people have been really awesome with us, and we're excited to work with them in Sand City to make some cool murals the end of the summer. And then there'll be the West End Festival right after that. So there'll be a lot to do, a lot of
We'll
art.
be there at the West End Festival, do we know?
Yes, we should be having. I think we're having a big shop canopy type setup.
Oh, cool.
So you'll see all the artists for the shop there, and
Yeah,
it should be a good
come
time.
out, say hi, bring us love and positive vibes, and
Yeah.
some cumbia. You can count on that. That's for sure.
And possibly some burritos.
Yeah. Just follow the cumbia.
All right. Well, thank
Peace.
you.
Thank you.
Thank
we'll
you.
see you all on the next one. I got some cool
Buy
guests
local
coming.
art.
Yeah, buy local. Support your artists.
For living artists. Not dead ones.
All right.
Woo!
That was 2 hours.